She thought it was just another ordinary day, but one look, one word, one act, and everything she had worked for was about to unravel. No one saw it coming, and yet the consequences rippled far beyond her alone. What started as a single moment of unfairness turned into a chain reaction that affected countless lives. How could one mistake ignite so much pain, and who would pay the price? This is her story, and the truth behind it will make you question everything you thought you knew. It was a quiet morning, and Amara moved through her neighborhood with the ease of someone who knew every corner, every familiar face. She worked tirelessly at the community center, helping children, listening to stories no one else wanted to hear. On the surface, her life seemed ordinary, predictable. But beneath it, she carried the weight of years spent proving herself in a world that often overlooked her. That day, she stepped out as usual, unaware that a single glance from the wrong person would ignite a chain of events that would challenge everything she thought was safe, fair, and just. One moment could change everything. Whose side would justice be on? Amara tried to shake off the uneasy feeling that had settled in her chest. The street felt different that day, empty in ways it never had before, yet every glance felt heavy, judging. As she approached the small cafe she often stopped at, a group of men lingered near the entrance. At first, she thought it was coincidence, but their eyes followed her, cold and deliberate. She kept walking, clutching her bag tighter, heart hammering in her chest. Something about the way they watched made her skin crawl, a silent warning she couldn't ignore. Inside, she hoped the warmth of familiarity would ease her anxiety. The barista greeted her with a smile, and for a moment she thought maybe she was overreacting. But then a voice sharp and accusing cut through the hum of conversation. "Why are you even here?" Heads turned, conversations paused. Amara's stomach dropped. She opened her mouth, ready to explain, but the words died on her tongue. The accusation wasn't random, it carried history, assumptions about who she was, where she belonged. And in that instant, the cafe that had always felt safe became a stage for judgment she hadn't earned. As she tried to leave, whispers followed her out the door. On the street, the men from before had moved closer. Their presence wasn't just intimidating, it was purposeful. Every step she took was measured, calculating. Every breath felt like it could betray her. She remembered the late nights at the community center, the long hours making sure children had a safe space, the countless times she had worked harder than anyone around her to be seen, to be respected. And yet here she was, reduced to fear and suspicion in the eyes of strangers. A car slowly rolled past, its passengers staring too long, too pointedly. Amara's pulse quickened. She thought about calling anyone, but her phone was still in her bag, a small lifeline that suddenly felt too heavy to reach. Around her, the city moved on as if nothing were wrong, and yet every pair of eyes that lingered on her felt like judgment. Was it anger, hatred, something older and deeper that she couldn't name? She didn't have time to ponder. The men were closer now, their presence unavoidable. Then came the final, sharp moment that pushed her over the edge, a shove. Not violent enough to cause injury, but deliberate, public, humiliating. Her hands flew to her bag, her heart threatening to burst. Passers-by looked away, as though witnessing it was too complicated, too uncomfortable. Amara froze, trapped between fear and fury. One thought surged through her mind. How could a single moment, a single assumption about her, unleash such a cascade of humiliation, threat, and injustice? And what would happen next when the world refused to intervene? Amara froze as the men blocked her path, their expressions a mixture of disdain and amusement. The world around her felt unbearably loud, the chatter of pedestrians, the distant hum of traffic, every sound magnified against the tight knot in her chest. She had faced prejudice before, subtle glances, whispered assumptions, but this was raw, direct, inescapable. One of them stepped closer, voice low but sharp. "You don't belong here." Her heart raced. Memories of years spent proving herself, of late nights at the community center, of standing up for others who had no voice, collided with the cold reality of this moment. No amount of preparation could shield her from the sudden, suffocating injustice. She wanted to run, to scream, to call out the unfairness, but her body refused to cooperate. Every instinct screamed danger, yet the fear was deeper than physical threat. It was the invisible weight of a system that allowed this to happen, that let strangers dictate her worth in an instant. A shove sent her stumbling against the brick wall of a nearby building. Her bag slipped, spilling papers and personal belongings across the sidewalk. Bystanders hesitated, some pretending not to see, others merely glancing before moving on. The humiliation burned hotter than any fear. Anger rose, fierce and sharp, mingling with a helplessness she hadn't felt before. How could a single act, a single assumption, carry such power to wound, to erase, to humiliate? Then, just as she thought the moment would crush her entirely, something inside Amara snapped. A clarity, fierce and unyielding, surged through her. She would not be defined by their hate, nor by the silence of the world around her. But in that heartbeat, standing amid the spilled papers, the men closing in, the city pressing down like a weight, she realized the fight had only just begun, and the cost of speaking up might be higher than she ever imagined. Would anyone step forward, or would the world continue to look away as it always had? Amara finally gathered her scattered belongings, each paper a small reminder of the life she had fought to build. The men had moved on, their laughter fading into the city noise, but the weight of the moment stayed with her. She walked home slowly, every step heavy with the memory of fear, humiliation, and the silent complicity of those who looked away. Yet, amid the anger and pain, something had shifted inside her. She realized that surviving this moment didn't mean surrendering. It meant learning, resisting, and giving voice to those who could not. In the days that followed, Amara shared her story with friends, colleagues, and even strangers, each retelling a ripple in the fight against injustice. Her single moment of vulnerability became a mirror reflecting a larger truth. Racism isn't always shouted. Sometimes it's a shove, a glance, or an assumption that erases dignity. And while the world may often try to ignore it, these moments demand recognition, empathy, and action. Her experience was painful, but it was also a catalyst, proof that even in the darkest moments, courage and awareness could spark change. The question lingered long after she stepped away from that street. How many others endure these invisible battles daily, unseen and unheard? And how long will it take before we, as a society, decide enough is enough? Amara's story didn't end with that shove. It ended with a choice, to speak, to resist, to ensure that what happened to her would no longer remain invisible. And that choice, small as it seemed, had the power to ignite awareness, empathy, and ultimately action. The world watched and the question remained, will we finally confront the injustice or will we look away once again?